Iron Fist Episode 4, 8 Diagram Dragon Palm. Now, there were some cool things about this episode, some disappointing things, mostly as far as the action. It was very, very sad to see during the end of this episode, but I enjoyed some stuff in this episode. There were very small moments where I was like, that's a very cool thing, because over the past 4 episodes, there are just moments where I'm like, that was really great. And then there's other times where it's like, the rest of the time with this character, it's normal, it's just going through. And then other times it'll be like, that was actually a great scene. It'll be half a second, it seems, but that was an amazing scene. And one of the parts that shows up is in the beginning of the episode. So we see Danny. I love the way it starts too, with just the pullback from the light, and he just kind of lands on it. But he wakes up and he realizes that Ward, kicked him off the window, which I was honestly surprised to find out it was Ward, just because the way that scene played out, like, he goes into the room, the only reason he goes there is to talk with his dad. And it just made me wonder, like, why was he even near the window? Like, Danny wasn't making any noises. He jangled that thing for like half a second before he opened it up. And I'm like, he got over there that fast? Was he near the window? The lights were all off so you couldn't see him. So I was just like, that's why at the end of the episode in my review, I just assumed it had to be like the hand or something, because unless I missed it, they didn't even show that it was Ward that knocked him off the window. So I was expecting something different. And it was like, yeah, I kicked you off the window. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess it was just him. Like, why was he even there or anything like that? But, we go through Danny meeting Harold and realizing that he's alive, and that he made a deal with the hand to actually survive. And technically he had to die before he could be reborn, which is pretty interesting. It was different than what I was expecting. I just assumed he faked his death, but he did actually die. So that was actually a cool little element. But after things kind of said and done, Harold's like, okay, everything we've kind of worked towards, oh well, give Danny what he's owed, give him his 51%, and then he sends him on their way, and it's like, glad to have you back, Danny. And he makes it very welcoming, even though it's a weird story. Like, yeah, I'm supposed to be dead, but I'm not, and now I'm kind of trapped here because of the hand. So when they're going down the elevator, they have the scene where Ward is talking to Danny, and he's like, don't get too attached, don't try to replace him as your father. And at first I thought it was kind of tying into the last episode, where it was like, I thought Ward was going to kind of be like, he's my dad, not yours. But then he's like, Harold doesn't really care about you. Like, Harold only cares about himself, so be careful. And I was like, that was a good scene. Like, it's not at all what I thought Ward was going to say. And even though that's not what he wanted, he still knew, like, man, it's going to suck for him. Like, I've been getting used forever. I've been getting used for like the past 12 years. And he's just going to use you too, Danny. So he was just like, don't get too attached to him, because Harold only cares about himself. And that was a very small segment, but I was like, that says something, about that character who is being controlled by his father and being told what to do, and he doesn't like it, but he'll still, in a sense, look out for other people so that they can't be used in the same way. And I was like, that's just interesting to watch, even though it was that very small segment. I like that portion. And then, of course, we get to Danny, being back in the public light, which I was surprised. There wasn't a lot of stuff about, holy crap, how'd you come back from the dead or anything. Like, even when he first announced that he was coming back, the first question I got asked was like, is it true you were in a psychiatric ward? I'd be like, I'm sorry, you were dead for over a decade. What happened? Like honestly, I said in the last episode, every time he talks to people, he's like, yeah, I went to another dimension and this and that. None of that even came up. People were just like, so you went to a psychiatric ward. This is the dude that's been dead for 10 years, and that was the question you get. Like, everyone should have literally had the exact same number one question. And I was just surprised that it didn't even come up. It didn't seem like it was even a big deal in the episode as far as news or anything like that. And even by the end of the episode, after Ward talks to the reporter, and they go to the next day, which was a cool scene because she referenced Karen. I was like, oh, that's cool. They referenced Karen from Daredevil. But she did it, and it's a good story. But I'm still like, honestly, and I guess technically that was 2 days after the announcement, or yeah, I guess it was 2 days after, because they would have to let people know, like, Danny Rand is alive. So I guess that would have been the news for that day. Like, the day he was doing the conference would have been the same day they did, like, the news, Danny Rand is alive. So I guess it makes sense the next day that wouldn't be the headline again, and it would go back to the corporate stuff. But I was just like, that's surprising. Like, the first thing was, Danny Rand, corporate savior, because he had them sell the drugs at market price. And it was just interesting. I was like, man, it seems like a very nonchalant thing for this billionaire kid to come back from the dead. Like, nobody seemed to really have any news about that. Like, I know that there's other questions, but number one is what the F? Like, what happened? Why'd you wait so long? There are a million questions, and I was just like, man, it didn't seem like they made it a big deal. That was just one of those weird things to me that didn't seem to make a lot of sense. Like, number one should just be, what the F happened? You've been dead for 12 years, so what happened? But, or 15 years, but still, they go through the process of him going back to his old office, and he finds the stickers and stuff like that. And he's kind of dealing with being a part of the business, and first move is the pills and selling them at value or at price. And I thought that was cool. That's of course a cool thing to do. Naturally, the company loses money. They don't lose money, but in some form they don't do anything. It exists. That's pretty much it. It's a stalemate. There's nothing to that. They probably lose money because I would assume that they have to, if they're the ones actually making the pill, then they have to, labels and advertising and shipping. So they do lose money. They do lose money for selling it at market price. And I just thought it was interesting. It was the first move he made. Of course, everybody was pissed, like, oh, we're not, like, we're losing money. First move, first day he comes in, his deal is to basically make us lose money. So, that was interesting. But it goes through, and then things start to pick up a little bit. They kind of died down in the middle of the episode. I think the beginning and end were the best parts, and the middle kind of died down because it was a little talky, like the part where kind of after he makes his big decision, it's Joy and Danny, and it's just a lot of talking with them, and there wasn't much there, and he talks about, what happened and him growing up after the plane crash and how he would have to carry buckets of water that were super heavy every day, and it was kind of okay. It was just the history of it just wasn't as entertaining to me. Like the visuals they've shown before, where we get to see him getting like hit on the back and stuff, and he starts bleeding and stuff because they're hitting him so hard, stuff like that. I'm like, all right, that's interesting to see. But the way they're doing it, like they're of course leading up to that episode, like I said, where we get the full flashback, and at this point I feel like we don't need it because they talk about it so much, even if it's in really small snippets. There's really like one portion, and it's how he got the power of Iron Fist, but I feel like they've explained literally everything leading up to that. Now we know what happened with the plane crash. We know exactly how it played out because of when he was talking to the psychiatrist. So him being in the wreckage, he explains it. So it's him going from where he was to finding where, I think where his father was, and it was like, I saw the pilots and they were gone, and I saw my father and I didn't want to leave him, but I couldn't find my mother, and then I was found by the two monks. So he kind of explained, the very beginning, like everything that happened leading up to basically just the middle of him training, because he talks about how they said an outsider like him wouldn't possibly be able to gain such a power. So it's like they kind of explained the beginning already. All we need to see is like, all right, here's your final test, and that could be a whole episode depending on how they do it. So I am still looking forward to seeing the full flashback episode, because the way he gets his powers is pretty nuts. And I don't know, admittedly it's hard to say if I believe they'll even do it in a cool way, just because things have been really downplayed in this show. Like even him using his powers is super downplayed. Like he uses his powers at the end of the episode, but it's to like block the axe, and then after that it's like, all right, I'm cool, and he just fights people, which technically he kind of has to, because he would kill everybody if he used his powers. Like as you see, the hatchets were like breaking on his hand. If he punched like a normal person, he would kill them. Like they would all die if he did. It's like Spider-Man. Like he pulls his punches. If he punched people with all his strength, he would kill them. He can lift cars. If he punched somebody, they would die. So it's kind of the same thing where it's like, it still sucks to not see the powers though. And we get, like the little glimpses here and there, and it's been 4 episodes and we've seen them do it 3 times, I think. 3 maybe 4 times. And it's always in like a 1-second thing. Like it's never like he's holding the charge because he's fighting a super villain or anything like that. He's just fighting normal people. And hopefully we see, once again, I'm hoping we see more of that. I'm starting to get really worried, because this was the hallway scene. This was the one that I was waiting for. Like this is the fight that's going to be really cool. It has to be close quarters. All these guys have axes and stuff like that. And I just thought it was an okay fight. Like I didn't think it was super cool. It was almost like a lot of training. Like that's kind of how it looks, because he blocks people so perfectly. It doesn't seem like there's any real weight to it, and that's the big thing. And also with the form of martial arts that he does, it's a lot of counter stuff. So he'll do like very slow blocks, and then he'll just like break someone's arm, and it's like, all right, you're out of here. But you do that to like 4 people, and it's like, well, that's not super hardcore. He did do like one cool kick, because he like jumped off a wall and like did a spin kick and knocked the dude out. That was awesome. And then it was kind of cool, the scene where they were in the elevator, but the lighting was a bit darker, and I don't know if that was to kind of hide some issues or whatnot. I don't know, but it was just harder to see. But that was still cool. It's like, you know, him like kicking people and they're fighting in an enclosed space. I was like, I at least enjoy this portion. I think that was my favorite part because you could see that, you know, it made sense. Like he'd knock somebody back or he'd kick someone to the ground and then someone would try to, you know, come at him with an axe, or someone would try to hit Joy, and so he'd have to move her back and try to knock the or the hatchet, not the axe, out of his hand, and then he'd like punch him into a corner. And so he was going a lot of, you know, back and forth until they got to the bottom floor. And I was like, that's actually cool. I enjoyed seeing that. I thought it was pretty good. But I was just hoping for some more. It was the hallway scene. You know, that's supposed to be like their big thing for the Marvel shows. Even though it's not really the hallway scene except for in Daredevil episode 2, and everything else is just, well, they were in a hallway because they were in a building, and those typically have hallways in them. So, you know, with this, although this actually was a hallway scene because he didn't, you know, like in Luke Cage, he was going through hallways into different rooms because he was going through the building to get to the top. And in this, it literally was just a hallway fight, like with Daredevil, where he went down into an elevator. It was even more of a hallway fight than the Daredevil thing because he went into 2 separate rooms and he was kind of going back and forth because there were people in both rooms, and then he went into the 3rd room to get the kid out. So this was even more of a hallway fight than that was because it was just the hallway, and then he got into the elevator at the end. And I was just like, it wasn't as cool as I was hoping it was going to be. And it was cool to see his powers, you know, where they hit the hatchet and it like shatters and, you know, it like knocks the light out and stuff, and the siren starts going off in the elevator. But it just wasn't as cool as I was hoping. I just thought it looked a bit slow paced compared to what I felt it could be with it being martial arts. Like, this is a guy who, you know, I've constantly said this, he is built around martial arts. Daredevil knows martial arts. Iron Fist is martial arts. Like, he was made because martial arts was famous during that time in the 70s. You know, Bruce Lee and stuff like that. Like, that's why Iron Fist exists. We need to be seeing, like, the coolest martial arts fight, or at least on par with Daredevil. It doesn't have to be better than that. It just has to be that. Just a bunch. Like, all the fights have to be, like, big martial arts thing. Like, some of the Daredevil fights, they start with a lot of flips and kicks because Daredevil, you know, knows how to move. But it degrades a lot. Even when he's fighting some people who know martial arts, or he's fighting actual ninjas, sometimes it degrades to just, he's effing tired, and this dude has to punch someone in the face. It's not always kicks and flips, because it feels realistic as he's going through a fight. And then slowly it's just like, I'm tired. I just got to be done with this. And it could be that for Iron Fist. And I just feel like we don't have that, because he's still fighting super easy people. Like, they haven't, and that's the unfortunate thing, because I know it's going to get, I'm assuming it's going to get better once the hand does come in, because they know martial arts as well. But I don't know, I guess because I'm just thinking, like, all I think in my head is this, you know, we've had scenes, you know, with Daredevil where it's supposed to be the same sort of thing, but he fights, like I said in the first episode, he fights actual assassins, or he fights, like, you know, 8 people at once. It's constantly like 4 guys. Every time Danny has fought somebody, it's like he fights 4 people, and it's like, that's nothing. It would be the same thing if Daredevil did then. I said that for like the first episode. That very first fight in Iron Fist, it would have been the same if it was in Daredevil. It would have been like, he would have took those guys out in 3 seconds. But that's every single fight in this so far. It's been like 3 different fight scenes, and he's fighting Joe Blow from the psychiatric ward and his buddies, or he's fighting the security guards who could probably dodge a punch because they have minimal combat training, but they don't know martial arts. Clearly, they aren't that great. They have guns, and he still takes them down, and so does Colleen. So it's stuff like that where it's like, man, it's not, you know, it's not super intense. And then speaking of Colleen, she does have way cooler fights because it is more intense. It is full-on martial arts. So she's fighting 2 people, and it's not super easy because they're like insanely bigger than her or something like that. And, you know, she's great at martial arts, but she's on, like, you know, Iron Fist levels where he literally, you know, he trained in another dimension with martial arts, you know, beings. So it's cool to watch her fight. It's more entertaining because there's some tension to it, and also it just feels a lot more fast-paced. Like, even watching him fight multiple people, it was like, I felt like the way he even blocked, and I don't do martial arts, but it was just watching it from years of watching martial arts. I was like, I just feel like he blocked that slow. Or, you know, the way they did it was just slower, and then he takes somebody down really fast. And I was like, man, that's super disappointing. So it does have me worried, at least for his scenes, because like I said, for Colleen, they make it where, with her being in this fight club thing, it's constantly like really giant big dudes who are like, oh, I'm going to beat up the little girl, and then, you know, she has to like struggle to fight them, especially when she decides to do like a 2-on-1 fight. So it makes it more impactful because of stuff like that. Like, she even broke her pinky, which I didn't realize during the fight. But the scene when she's laying down, my girlfriend was there. She doesn't watch the show, but she saw that scene. And she was like, I thought they cut her finger off, because she didn't see the whole fight scene. I was like, it was fun. It was kind of funny because the way you couldn't even see it at all. It was just like, holy crap, it does look like that. But it's just more intense with her, and I enjoy that. So I'm excited for at least the future, because I know they end up teaming up in some of these episodes at some point. I'm assuming against the Hand. So I know at least for her, she's not like, learning from interdimensional martial arts beings. So it's going to be, more weight to it when she fights, even if it's still not as cool when he fights when they're together. You can at least look at her side of the action and be like, that's really cool. And I think her stuff does start to get to that Daredevil type level. It's just lesser because more people don't keep coming in. It's like she either fights one person like she did the first time, or in this episode where she fought two people at once, and it's like, okay, it starts to get there. It's just that she's choosing, it's not like waves of assassins are coming after her, so it's a little bit less because it's not just a gang of people, but it's still really awesome, and it's just more entertaining to watch than Danny's fights, because it's just like, okay, here we go with the cool, he does the poses and stuff, and then, quick dodge, counter, flip this guy, kick this dude. Like I said, when he did the spin kick, like he jumped off the wall to do a kick, I thought that was awesome. Other than that, I feel like there's not much I can really think of. And like the actual elevator scene was pretty cool, because it was, close quarters, and he had to keep dodging and, trying to protect Joy at the same time. She even got a punch in there in the beginning. And I was like, I like that. That was cool. But when it was open space, and it was a hallway, it should have, it wasn't that open, but he made it seem like it was a field. It was just like, done, 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 elevator. And I was like, alright, that was insanely fast. Like, I've seen some hallway fights. There's a movie called Muay Thai Kids. They have a hallway fight where the hallway is so small, the adult, like, there's actual kids in it's a whole thing, but it's an amazing film. So there's a guy fighting these kids, and the hallway is so thin that he can't even kick all the way across because his legs are too long. Like, he kicked and he missed the kid, and his foot landed in the wall because the hallway is so tiny. And I was like, that's an amazing fight scene, and this is just like, he flew through them so fast. There's no tension. And you can have a fight where someone flies through people. Like any martial arts movie, the hero beats everybody up in 2.5 seconds until they get to like the final person. Every Jackie Chan movie, he's beating up everybody, but he's jumping all over the place. It feels tense because there's like a dozen guys, and he'll take like 3 punches out of the whole fight scene, but there's something to that. And even if there's only 3 guys that he's fighting, they'll make it where there's a balance back and forth. It's not just he flies through them and there's nothing, because those people should have got way more hits in. I felt like they got literally nothing. I felt like they could have at least got 1 hit in or something, or, even if they couldn't, it could have looked cooler for Danny to take them out. But it's like, it's almost to the point where he's, too perfect. They need to throw in the supervillains. Like, they, honestly, for his, type of character, that's basically it. They almost need to throw in supervillains for it to be a challenge for him. Like, Daredevil gets tired. Iron Fist seems to just, like, he's so meditated, it's almost like he has infinite stamina, and he makes people look so weak. There's nothing to it. It's just like, these dudes fight with, like, hatchets. They dual wield hatchets. Like, you have some skills if you're dual wielding hatchets. You know how to fight hand to hand. And he was just taking them down like it was nothing. I'm like, they either need to like quadruple the people or throw in some super villains so he has to use his powers more, because we just don't see it enough. And still, first 4 episodes, not even halfway through. But that's the thing I keep picking up. Is like, they keep throwing the weaker people at him. They need to have, like I said, like quadruple the people. Send like a dozen dudes after this guy. They do it with Daredevil. He's fighting a bunch of ninjas. That's what I'm looking forward to once Madame Gao knows this is the dude. This dude is Iron Fist, and which seems to be the case at the end, which I also thought was pretty cool, where Madame Gao shows up and she takes, I literally just looked his freaking name up, Harold. They take Harold to see Joy, and he's like, oh, someone hit my daughter. So they take him to the restaurant, and it's like, which one of you hit Joy Meachum? And he kills the guy. That leads to Danny finding out the truth about the hand and learning, some weird stuff. And he sees the symbol, and it's I guess it's the serpent part. It's the dragon without the wings spread out of his tattoo. So he turns around and we see the full tattoo for the first time. And I thought that was cool. I thought that was pretty sweet. But I'm excited to see where they go once we finally get the hand to go against Danny, because I think they'll be the ones to actually challenge him. They'll be jumping around. I'm hoping it won't be like it was before, where it's just random people getting destroyed by him. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Like I said, it was mostly like just that disappointment at the end, where I was like, that's the scene I was waiting for to really kick up the action. Close quarters combat, people fighting with patches who I assumed had way more competent fighting capabilities, which they seemed to show off in the elevator like crazy, but they didn't seem to be able to show it off when it was like 2-on-1. But when they're in that short space, it was like they were able to do it really well. And then the open space, it was like, I have too much freedom, I don't know how to do it, and they were getting beat up. But I did still enjoy some of the portions of the episode. Like I said, the elevator scene, the whole beginning, I actually enjoyed, because I was like, I don't really know how this is going to play out. Like, how is Harold going to kind of confront him about this? And then now Danny still keeps that secret, which I thought was actually a cool element, that he didn't instantly go to Joy and tell her the truth. And it's just like, he doesn't know everything himself, so he's still kind of out of the loop, but he knows a little bit extra. So that was actually a cool part to it. Of course, the elevator scene I thought was good. And the fight scene was good with Colleen. The elevator portion of the fight scene I thought was entertaining with Danny. And then, of course, the ending leading to him learning a bit more about the truth behind, what the Hand want, and why they need the pier and stuff like that. So I am still looking forward to the rest of the season. I'm not going to just stop because that scene disappointed me. I'm actually looking forward to more action. But of course, I do want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts and least favorite parts. And I got to ask what you thought about the fight sequences. I've been bringing it up, and this is the scene I thought was going to really do it, and it just didn't. And that really disappointed me, because I'm like, how can this not be like maybe the coolest action scene in the whole season? And it was just really lackluster. And I was just like, man, that really disappointed me, at least the first half. Because like I said, the elevator scene, even though I feel like I don't know how it could have been better, really, because it was an elevator, they really couldn't do that many moves. But I think it was really good for the elevator portion. And then the first part was just like, I'm not feeling it. So I do want to know how you guys feel about the action up to this point. And of course, I want to know what you guys feel about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.